Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Good afternoon and good morning to our delegates and guests from across Canada. Welcome to the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's first pre-virtual mission briefing session on South Korea's market. I would first of all like to congratulate all delegates who have been selected for the first virtual Canadian women-only business mission to South Korea. My name is Christine Nakamura, Vice President of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's Toronto office and your host for today's session. While we are meeting today in a global digital space with participants from across Canada, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that the places Canadians call home are the traditional territories of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Before we begin, I'd like to remind participants of a few housekeeping matters, which are posted on the Q&A box to the side of the screen. This webinar is being recorded, and mission delegates are to use the chat line located at the bottom of the screen to submit questions for the Q&A session. Non-delegates and guests should use the Q&A box located at the right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to contact us offline should we run out of time and not be able to answer your questions today. Should you wish to access the session in the French language, please dial into the teleconference number identified in the Q&A box. For technical support during the session, contact events@asiapacific.ca. We have scheduled an hour and 15 minutes for today's session. COVID-19 related public health restrictions has had a profound impact on small businesses, the backbone of Canada's economy. Statistics on small business insolvencies are yet to become available, but it is expected to be significant, with a disproportionate share being made up of women-owned and women-led small businesses. As it became evident in the spring that the virus would be with us for much longer than anyone could have ever predicted, the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada decided that we could not and should not wait to provide the much needed help to the 20 women entrepreneurs originally selected for the February 2020 first Canadian women-only business mission to South Korea, which was postponed due to the lockdown. So our team took action and pivoted to hosting a virtual mission. We feel that a virtual format cannot replace the value and impact of an in-market mission, but it is the best alternative to facilitating the achievement of commercial deals for delegates in the short term. With the shift to the virtual mission, we also decided that we could increase the number of delegates for the mission, and hence the application process was reopened. After a careful review of all the applications received, I'm pleased to announce that our delegation for the first virtual mission comprises 25 women-owned and women-led businesses that we feel have good potential in the South Korean market. Today's session is the first of 4 training sessions that we have organized, taking into account the feedback received from women SMEs on gaps and challenges they face in diversifying their markets. 3 of the 4 sessions will be open to non-delegates as observers, like we are opening today. We hope that these pre-mission sessions will better prepare our delegates for the upcoming mission and will encourage non-delegate women entrepreneurs to consider expansion of their businesses through engaging South Korea's vibrant market in the future. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker, Mr. No Han-sung, who arrived in Canada last February to take up his post as General Manager at the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency, or better known as KOTRA, in Toronto. He has completed his self-isolation. When we met him, when he had indicated that he had finished it, at the official announcement of the virtual mission at KOTRA last month with the Honorable Mary Ng, Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion, and International Trade. An experienced trade promotion officer who will be leading the marketing division at KOTRA, Han-sung, or Hans, which is what he's nicknamed himself, has occupied key trade facilitation positions at headquarters in Seoul and in Manila, Philippines. Hans is a graduate of the University of Seoul, where he studied international relations. Hans, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hans No from Cultural Toronto. It's really nice to meet all the delegates and guests. And it is a great honor to present at this incredible event organized by the Asian Pacific Foundation. On behalf of the Korea Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, I would like to thank all of you for being here today. So let's start my presentation. Next slide, please. I'm going to give a brief overview of the economic and business environment in Korea. We are also going to look at the Canada-Korea trade relationship, as well as a few prominent female Korean leaders. And then we'll talk about culture and how we can help support and expand your business in Korea in the near future. Next slide. Okay, in the past year, Korea has grown into the world's 12th largest economy with a GDP of 1.64 trillion US dollar. Korea boasts strong economic fundamentals as it is ranked 5th in the current account balance, 7th in trade volume, and 9th in foreign exchange reserves, and 8th in the number of listed companies. Next slide, please. Yeah, since 2015, Korea has maintained the AA credit rating, originally reported by the 3 largest global credit rating agencies, Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. Korea has the highest credit rating in Asia and has a very secure macroeconomic foundation and strong financial stability. And next. Korea is also the most innovative country in the world, according to the 2020 Bloomberg Innovation Index, topping the list for 6 consecutive years and second on 2020. In particular, Korea ranked 2nd for R&D intensity and 3rd for value-added manufacturing and 4th in the number of high-tech companies. Next. According to the 2019 World Bank Doing Business report, Korea is the 5th easiest place on earth to do business out of 190 countries. And Korea has maintained the top 5 position since 2014. So we can see that starting and operating a business in Korea is very fast and efficient. The number of foreign companies has continuously grown, reaching 18,714 as of 2018. This feat is attributable to Korea's strong economic fundamentals, diversification of growth sectors, including Industry 4, ease of doing business, and the government's various efforts to ease regulation and provide support to foreign companies in Korea. Korea has FTAs with 52 countries, including the EU and United States and China, which are the world's 3 largest markets. And of course, Korea also has a free trade agreement with Canada, and I will elaborate on that in the next slide. Korea's free trade network is now the world's 3rd largest, covering majority of the world economy in terms of GDP. So we can see that today, Korea is truly a global FTA hub. Please back to the last slide, please. Yes. Okay, some of the Korea's leading industries include DRAM, display, chemicals, lithium batteries, and smartphone, all of which have #1 market share in the world. Recently, the petrochemical, automotive industry, including future mobility and cosmetic sector, has been emerging as a new promising industry. Next. In the ICT Development Index, Korea ranked second among 176 countries and topped the list in 2010 and 15 and 16. Next, please. So it is very important to note that Korea is the world's most wired country and is the only country in the world whose entire population can access 4G connectivity. Korea also became the first country in the world to bring 5G network into reality in April 2019. Korea ranks first in the world in categories such as average connection speed and 4G LTE penetration, smartphone penetration, and average mobile speed. In this regard, Korea offers you world-class IT infrastructure so that you could do business without limits. Next. Now I will briefly talk about the Canada-Korea business relationship and the CKFTA. So Korea is Canada's sixth largest trading partner with merchandise trade, reaching 15.3 billion in 2018, and its third largest in Asia. The Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement entered into force on January 1st, 2015. It reduced tariffs across a range of Canadian and Korean products on January 1st of each year until its completion in 2032. There are some benefits of CKFTA. First of all, the CKFTA provides new opportunities for Korean and Canadian exporters and workers across the country, which will lead to economic development and job creation. And second, it also provides preferential access as it provides Canadian companies approach to an important market in Asia and Korean companies access to an important market in North America. So finally, the CKFTA will eliminate restriction as investors and businesses will automatically receive preferential treatment. So by January 2020, Canada will remove duties on 97.4% of all goods, and Korea will remove their tariffs on 92% too of the goods. And in the long run, only 1.8% of Canadian products and 2.2% of Korean products will be subject to tariff by the time the CKFTA is fully implemented in 2032. Next slide. And this is a tariff concession timeline of CKFTA. As you can see, 2020, this year, 92.2% of product from Korea include tire, bearing, pork, seafood, will remove their tariffs when they import to Canada. And next. As well as Canada's Canadian side, in 2020, 97.4% product of Canada. It includes batteries, building materials, shoes, will remove tariffs when they export to Korea. Next. So taking these advantages of opportunities, many global companies, including over 65 Canadian companies, are currently operating their business in Korea. So here we can see some familiar names, such as Magna and Bombardier, Canadian Solar, and Canada Goods. Now, let me briefly introduce a few female business leaders in Korea. The participation of Korean female in the business and entrepreneurship is a growing trend in the 21st century. So here you could see a list of prominent female business leaders in Korea. So first, Ms. Sung-Soo Khan, she's a CEO of Naver. which is Korea's biggest web portal. The second, Dr. Song Yun, we are meeting now at this conference. She's a CEO of NCSoft, one of Korea's major video game developer, who is also a member of the Asia Business Leaders Advisory Council. And next is Sophie She is a co-founder of Solidware, machine learning and big data company. And last one is Sonyoung Lim. She is a vice president of Kakao. It's a mobile giant of Korea. Next. Here are some other notable and influential female in Korea's tech and venture capital and beauty and financial sector. So in particular, Ms. Junglim Park, she's on the left bottom of this slide, became the first female CEO of a major national financial institution, so KB Security, in 2018. Next. Now, there are also many associations that support women-led businesses and entrepreneurs in Korea. So there are a Korean Federation of Business and Professional Women, and Korea Venture Business Women's Association, 21st Century Women CEO Association, and Korea IT Business Women's Association. Now we had a chance to look at Korea's business environment. And now I'll introduce you a little bit about our organization, KOTRA, and how we can help support and expand your business in Korea. So KOTRA is the National Trade and Investment Promotion Organization of Korea. It's under the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy. We established in 1962, and we carry out a strategy and policies set by the Ministry of Trade. We have several mandates, including trade promotion, which includes business matchmaking between foreign and Korean companies, and hosting trade delegation consisting of Korean SMEs and provincial governments. Second is exhibition and conventions. We host numerous events in trade shows in Korea, such as Seoul Foods and Global Mobile Vision. And also we annually participate Korea Pavilion at many exhibitions overseas, like CES, Mobile World Congress. And in Canada, this coming December, we are bringing 10 Korean companies to join a Security Canada Expo. So third is a global HR partner. So we support international exchange of human resources and help foreign companies identify and recruit talented Korean professionals. And fourth is economy and trade cooperation. So we facilitate free trade agreements and share our expertise and know-how with the partner countries and organizations. 5, global market information. And also, we collect and analyze global market information. So actually, this is the last slide, what I'm talking about now, but it's okay. Which provides, so we have other invest promotion activities, so which provides a one-stop service for foreign companies and investors that are looking to expand into investment in Korea. And these are our offices worldwide. We carry out these activities through our head office in Seoul and also 127 branch offices all across the globe. And in Canada here, we have 2 offices, one in Toronto and one in Vancouver. So our Toronto office, as a commercial section of Korean consulate, we are in charge of supporting Canadian companies that are located in the province east of Manitoba. So this is almost end of my presentation, and I will quickly introduce some popular attraction in Korea. So here are my recommendation when you visit Seoul. And I know because of COVID and it's very hard time for everyone to travel overseas, but I really hope you could visit one of these places in the near future. So this is end of my presentation. I have listed my contacts at the bottom, so please feel free to contact if you have any questions regarding my presentation. So thank you for listening. And
thank you very much, Hans, for a very comprehensive overview of South Korea's economy and culture. Very good presentation. Thank you very much. And for the delegates and people listening, the details of the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement will be provided in session 3 of our training, pre-mission training session. So if you want to hear more details, please do hook in for the October 13th session. Okay. I'm now delighted to introduce our mission chair and president of NCSoft Holdings, Dr. Yoon Sung-yi. NCSoft, as identified in Hans's presentation, is a leading South Korean video game developer with subsidiaries around the globe. It has published internationally renowned video games, including Lineage, City of Heroes, Guild Wars, to name a few. And I personally know how wildly popular these games were while my sons were growing up, as I recall frequently reprimanding them for playing these games instead of doing their homework. So thank you, Sung-yi. Sung-yi is responsible for developing the company's globalization strategy, and through her discerning vision has helped pivot the company to new directions, including towards the development of the mobile studio in San Mateo, California, and research into new technologies such as AI, artificial intelligence. Having lived her life so far in male-dominated environments, Sung-yi is passionate about diversity and inclusion and is a strong advocate of equal opportunities for women. To ease the burden of family care that women disproportionately shoulder in South Korea, hindering access to career opportunities, she has created a celebrated on-site, state-of-the-art, and most importantly, tuition-free nursery school for children of NCSoft's employees called the Laughing Peanut, which I understand the children named, selected. This care facility, and I call it CARE, offers an envied academic curriculum driven by tech innovation, focusing on early stage introduction to foreign languages, and not surprisingly, mathematics and science. With 50 caregiving educators for 200 children in the nursery, women employees can continue to work after childbirth and confidently pursue career aspirations as working mothers. This school is ranked as one of South Korea's best, if not the best, nursery school offered by an employer, and is attracting talent for NCSoft, the company, from all over the country. Sung-yi is a graduate of Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, or known as KAIST for short, which was named the top university in South Korea in 2019. And she is a PhD recipient from MIT in computational neuroscience. She was named to the Wall Street Journal's 50 Women to Watch in 2004, and I'm proud to say is currently the chair of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's Asia Business Leaders Advisory Council. So over to you, Sung-yi.
Thank you so much for, for the introduction. And thank you for the very comprehensive presentation, Mr. No. I'll be able to provide all of you a little bit softer context about the business environment and the issue of gender equality and diversity in Korea. First of all, it is my great honor and also a pleasure to welcome you to the pre-mission training webinar of the first virtual Canadian women-only business mission to South Korea. Canada and South Korea have been one of the most important allies for a very, very long time. Koreans are not only very grateful for the 26,000 Canadians who fought for South Korea during the Korean War, but also for the Canadians who established the foundation of modern medicine in the 1800s, who notably served as the personal doctor for the last king of Joseon dynasty. It is very fitting that the mission's focus area is healthcare, along with education and agri-food sectors. Most recently, South Korea became the first Asian country to sign the bilateral trade agreement with Canada, and very eagerly looking forward to a lot more productive and collaboration together. Towards the end of last year, the United Nations released their Human Development Report, which included, among many other things, a mathematically derived rating for a gender gap. It incorporates everything from economic activity and opportunities and educational achievement to political power and even health and survival. For Korea, our country ranked low on this list. And one of the key factors in its ranking is a disparity between men and women's income in the country. Despite having nearly the same average amount of education, the average Korean male earned more than double the average Korean female. In addition to having nearly the same level of education, with nearly 90% of women and 95% of men in Korea having obtained higher education, just over 50% of Korean women contribute to the country's economic activity, whereas nearly 3 in every 4 Korean men do. As a result, among all the OECD countries, Korea has been consistently ranked very low in gender equality measures. Having been born and raised in Korea, the topic of gender equality and inclusion has always been near and dear to my heart. One of the earliest childhood memories takes place on Chuseok, which is basically Korean Thanksgiving, around this time. Being a typical Korean family, 30-something extended family members got together to celebrate and worship our ancestors. All my aunts and my mom had to arrive at my eldest uncle's house a couple of days earlier to prepare the food for worshiping. And on the day of Thanksgiving, all my uncles and my male cousins sat around the big table in the living room to enjoy the prepared food, while all my aunts and female cousins sat at a table in the kitchen to eat ugly dumplings that could not make it to the table. I cannot articulate what I felt then, but I know that I did not want to stay in the kitchen and eat the broken dumplings. So I got up and asked my dad to let me sit right next to him at the table. As I sat with my dad and had my dumplings, all my relatives, including female cousins, gave me a strange look, but I did not care. That moment gave me confidence, and it showed me that I can make my own choices and that I do not have to fit myself in the societal mold. I thank my father to this day for giving me that courage and opportunity. Growing up, I was always one of only few girls who attended math and science competitions. There wasn't a girls' bathroom at the building where a math competition took place one year, and I had to run to another building during a break to use a restroom, just like in the movie Hidden Figures. As I pursued higher education, female students made up only 3% of my electrical engineering class. Today, I see more girls choosing to pursue science and engineering as their career path, and they are eager to continue to work even after marriage. This is a huge progress compared to just 50 years ago in Korea, where women had to resign from the workplace as soon as they got married. However, it is still not easy to attain sustainable work and life balance, especially as a working mom, where the residue of a rather stubborn traditional culture is found in virtually every corner of the society. Witnessing many of our talented women employees struggle with fully realizing their potential at work due to childcare obligations, I decided to run an in-house daycare center at our headquarters office building in Pangyo in South Korea. I placed our daycare in the sunniest spot of the building, right in the middle, and designed the interior to facilitate children's brain development by filling it with age-appropriate stimuli. And to ease the guilt of a working mom that comes from not exposing their children to their best and diverse education opportunities, we offer age-appropriate language, music, storytelling, and yoga programs provided by qualified and experienced teachers. 3 on-site chefs prepare children's meals 3 times a day using organic ingredients. We open the nursery from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. so that those who have to drop off their kids at the nursery are not late, don't have to be late for 9 a.m. meetings, or can have work dinners with their colleague when they need to. And to ensure the quality of interaction with the children, we hired all 50 teachers as full-time employees of NCSoft and provide a resting area dedicated to the nursery teachers. And because of these efforts, we saw the percentage of female employees who returned from maternity leave increased from 61% in 2014 to 82% in 2018. While South Korea has a very low fertility rate, which is one of the lowest among all the OECD countries, our statistics show that parents who send 2 kids to our on-site nursery had the 3rd child with 80% of the time. I share this story not to say that everyone should start a daycare. I share to say that broken rung is a real issue in the country, but it can be addressed when more women are at the top in a position to make decisions. A country like South Korea, who have a baggage of inequality, can make significant changes and progress when dedicated female leaders are in charge to level the playing field. I see this as an opportunity. Since Korea is so behind on the culturally or policy-wise, it also poses great opportunity to easily achieve jumpstart growth once we create a culture that is fair and inclusive to all the genders. Another flip side of that is most female entrepreneurs that you will meet in Korea during this mission will have very strong sense of responsibility and willingness to make changes against the odds. Because only those who have strong mindset and commitment for making changes could have been able to emerge as leaders in the environment. I hope this women-only business mission will serve as another catalyst that the society needs, and you find a lot of opportunities and collaborate and expand your presence. There cannot be any doubt that valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion enables sustainable economic development and the progression of humanity. I believe a combination of support systems and more progressive and assertive female talents' participation in economic development will help us take a leap to harmonious and a sustainable development that we all would like to achieve. I wish all of you find this business mission critical and invaluable as I do. It is also my great pleasure to serve as a co-chair of the mission, and I hope you find this web seminar series useful and informative to lay a strong foundation for your successful business partnership in South Korea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Song-Yi, for that lovely and very informative presentation. I'd like to tell the delegates that in the in-person mission, we were supposed to spend the second whole day at NCSoft, and we were going to tour that nursery school with all the facilities and see some of the programming, because when I advanced the location, I was just blown away by how thoughtful and so much thought and energy had gone into this to make life easier for women employees and to encourage them to seek higher positions. So again, at some point in time, I hope that all of you will be able to get an opportunity to see that, whether we go in person or not. So I wanted to make mention of that. And Songyi she's probably not your normal Korean woman, but from my 4 years in Seoul, I can say that a lot of Korean women have strong mindsets. So there's a great future in, I think, economic advancement of women entrepreneurs and women in general in South Korea. So thank you very much for that, Songyi. Now, I'd like to start the Q&A session, but I'd like to remind all delegates that delegates will use the chat line at the bottom of the screen and for posing questions to either of the presenters. And for the audience observers, please use the Q&A box line to your right of your screen to pose any questions. And I encourage you to ask as many questions as possible, as we have both presenters with us today for this short time. So in the meantime, I'm going to start with a couple of questions, and I'd like to pose the first question either to Hans or Songyi. Hans, if you want to start. The question is, South Korea has women in the 2 top cabinet positions, Foreign Minister and Trade Minister, which must be an inspiration for young Korean career women. We are delighted that the Trade Minister, Minister Yoo Myung-hee, is going to be participating in our virtual mission in November. But can you name, has Minister Yoo or the government in general implemented special supports to overcome common challenges faced by women entrepreneurs in South Korea? And Songyi, you can jump in anytime and help them out as well if you know from your perspective. Hans?
Yeah, well, I could say there's no certain program or policy from the, Minister Yu for her candidate, but as she is a very expedite professional for trade and policy in South Korea, and she had many experience and growing up from the South Korean government. So the Minister Yu herself is a good success benchmark model for all the Korean entrepreneurs and businesswomen in Korea. So, and I hope she will finally she will win her candidate. Yeah.
Yes. Minister Yu is currently a candidate for the Director General's job at the World Trade Organization. And if she does succeed, she'll be the first woman, I believe, to take on that role. But we all have great hopes that she'll be successful. Songyi, do you have anything to add on that from a business person's perspective? Are there things that you've seen policy or program-wise in Korea that would specifically help women entrepreneurs who are, hoping to scale their businesses?
Well, I mean, I think it's not only for women entrepreneurs. I think the female are participating in the economic activities. I think that Korea is ended for its maternity leave programs. So normally it's much shorter in the US. In the US, that which I found figured out, and I started the running company here with a bit of surprise, because in Korea, it's the maternity leave for one child is up to 1 year. And if your father and mother can both take 1 year leave, and you're compensated at least, I think, beyond 6 months to 12 months, are compensated 50% of your normal income from the government. So, and then you can take it right after birth or at any age before the child hits the 2nd grade at elementary school, and attend child care, and they come up with a lot of measures for getting rid of any kind of inequality or discrimination for those who are taking the long leave of absence for child care.
So this is maternity or paternity leave for up to a year, is that correct?
Yes.
And does that, how does that work for, let's say, a woman-owned business? If an SME that has their own business and is having a child, would they get support from the government as well for that period in time?
All the companies get the support from the government so that the employees can be paid up to 50% of their income.
I see. Okay. This is a business question. Maybe it may work for either of you as well. But if, let's say, our women entrepreneurs find a partner, business partner in Korea, whether it's through an investor that invests in their company or they partner with another company to scale a business, can you tell me, would there be special programs or support networks, would they be eligible also to access the Korean supports?
I could say, as from my presentation, I explained the mandate of our agency, and actually we are the organization to facilitate all the trade matters between the other country. So I could say the delegation could use or contact our office in Toronto or the Canadian Embassy in Korea, and they could get a list of potential partners from different industry, and also they can join a couple of the delegation. Usually in this year and next year, we're going to have a delegation as well in online, and like online convention, they can join the online convention, whatever they want. So all the information and all the timeline schedules we could provide. So I think it's a good idea. After this session, we could provide.
That's wonderful. And for the delegates and audience tuned in, I have to thank COTRA. COTRA has offered tons of support and help on the B2B matching as well. But had we gone in February, they were going to be a big partner with us as well. So thanks to you, Hans and COTRA, and we'll ensure that further questions or help that we need for the women, we'll certainly contact your office in Toronto.
Great.
Thank you. Anything to add to that, Songyi? You may have accessed some support while you were scaling your business, so I'm just asking from a business perspective.
No, I think it's as long as you have an office, an entity that's based in Korea, hiring Korean females, you will have that. I mean, it's not necessarily as support for the female entrepreneurs, but I think it's kind of that's what's required by law, that you have to provide that 1 year maternity leave and paternity leave for childcare, and that's kind of the rule that has to be abided by as long as you run a business.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So we have a question from one of our delegates. Allison, I'm going to ask you to turn on your video and mic. And
it says I can't start my video, but my mic is on, so is that, oh wait.
Yeah, okay. So Allison, do you want to ask the question or shall I ask it for you? Go ahead.
Okay, sure. My question had to do with the effects of COVID-19 on the climate for accepting innovation in South Korea. We've seen in Canada, the COVID-19 pandemic really has created a lot of challenges, obviously, but it's also opened up a lot of opportunities for us in terms of, for example, I work in the aging sector, aging and neuroscience actually, and whereas long-term care homes are traditionally very conservative, now they're looking for all kinds of new innovations. And the same is true across all of the caregiving sectors. And I'm wondering whether there's been a similar sort of shift in Korea and where the greatest opportunities for growth and collaboration might be in that context.
Mm-hmm. I think that perhaps I'll go to Hans for that, but just for your benefit, Allison, we're going to be having a session specifically addressing the healthcare sector on October the 13th, after the legal aspects being dealt with. So this may be more appropriate to ask them, but I'll ask Hans if he can give a general answer to that.
Yeah, well, yes, as you point out, Korea also suffered from the COVID-19, and we are very near by China. So we were the one who first faced the COVID-19 pandemic in the world. So yes, we also I think have a more opportunity for the future for innovative solution, especially in aging or the medical industry and hospital. So actually we, in Korea, there was even some, in few years ago, there was a policy, but it's not happened. But we discuss inside our department to shifting the hospital to the mobile hospital. So it's like not going to hospital, but they can just easily get to meet the doctor. Mm-hmm. So those kind of discussion is ongoing still in Korea. So I think, yes, generally, we will have more opportunity on those sectors in Korea as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And Allison, you bring a really good point, because what I'd like to say, having hosted a bunch of seminars on Asian approaches to COVID-19 over the spring and summer, early summer, you'll see that in Asia, in countries like Korea or Japan or in Taiwan, where they have a lot of elderly people, the death rate wasn't very high. And, the old, the care homes, the long-term care homes and that, nothing happened, really not much happened compared to what we see in Canada here. So I think that from our perspective, there's probably tons that we can learn in terms of the innovative approaches and technologies used in dealing with the elderly in Asia. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for sure. We can learn from them. Song-Yi, anything to add?
No, I mean, I think it's a very good observation that the COVID and the crisis really opened up the opportunity for innovation, and people are more willing to adopt new kind of innovative approaches. A lot of factories transformed into PPE manufacturing facilities, from semiconductor equipment or the protective gears. So, and also the tracking softwares and apps have been very actively adopted in multiple places to really handle the contact tracing, and also following up with the need for more real-time communications. So I think it is true that people are more open to innovation that can in the time of crisis.
Allison, by the way, is her background's neuroscience too. So, and lovely to introduce you to Dr. Yun. Okay, so I think that I'd like to ask a question back. I know, Song-Yi, you mentioned it in your talk, that after childbirth, a lot of women, the number of women coming back to work increased significantly. But with the facilities you've offered and the flexible work arrangements in NCSoft, do you see a rise in the number of women who are aspiring to go into higher positions, senior positions within your company?
Oh yeah, right, definitely. So I think that's kind of always back in their mind when they're offered for a management position where more commitment is required or expected. And I think the more women are willing to or understand they can have both children and a career, and it doesn't have to be either or decision.
Okay. I think you mentioned to me when we were in Korea that you had roughly 800 to 1,000 engineers working at NCSoft. Could you tell us roughly the number of the percentage of women amongst those engineers?
We have about 40, more than 40% of female engineers and staffs. Game development is not just it's a mix of art and engineering and software development. So we have a lot of the female employees in the art department and planning department, as well as software engineering development department.
Thank you for that. We have a question from the audience here. Julia, can you turn on your camera and mic? And I think that your question is best posed to Hans. Julia, go ahead.
Hi, Christine. I'm not sure if, yeah, I think you can see me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both for your presentations. They were great. And my question was more, it's more structural. It's more, and it might be a legal or accounting question more than anything, but we've done a lot of our business in the US, and we eventually decided it was best if we set up a legal entity in the US and an address there. And that really helped us with some of our larger partnerships and sales. With the Korean market, is there a similar kind of benefit to having an established entity in Korea and an address there? And at what stage do you see businesses investing in this type of entity?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just like I believe there is a lot of benefits for a foreign enterprise to have a body and corporate in Korea. It's just similar level with the other countries will give. And for example, tax, right? And tax reduction for the foreign enterprises. And there will be, I think there's a different program for foreign companies from the Korean government to encourage their hiring the Korean specialist, or like it's a fund for foreign companies as well. But I don't know have all the details now. But generally, I know there are some program for foreign companies. So and the stage, I guess. First, you have to look for the partner who can deal with in the long term in Korea. So have some trusted for both companies, and after you have some first communication or a trade with the partner companies in Korea. I think after 2 or 3 years, foreign companies start to think have an incorporation in Korea. So it would be the the next level from the beginning stage. So I guess I have some information for the investors from our head office. So we can share the information or guideline for investors through the APF after this conference. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm gonna, Julia, to answer your question too, I'm gonna put somebody on the spot here. And Natalia, can you put your camera on and speak a little bit to the experience you had? One of our delegates, Natalia Mikalova, she left for Korea before us and was supposed to meet us there, and then she got stuck there with the pandemic. But she's experienced working, and I think you've opened up or partnered in Korea, and maybe she can talk to us a little, respond a little bit to you. She might be able to help. Go ahead, Natalia. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, so from our perspective, we saw a lot of value actually starting our operations in Korea, primarily because there was a big market opportunity as well as interest from the side of our potential customers and partners. And there was a lot of value in us setting up the entity there so that we could facilitate and set up those projects more easily. In Korea, there's also a lot of support in our space. We provide sensor systems and software for monitoring air pollution and also helping optimize ventilation systems and building control systems to help reduce that pollution. So in Korea, we were really impressed by understanding of the problem we are solving. And actually in many, I think what really was helpful for us was to actually go and spend time in Korea and really understand how the market there is working, what kind of solution they already have in place. And based on what we've seen, there is air quality monitoring devices in many of the bus stops. The government is very proactive, both on the in the capital in Seoul, but also in other places about implementing new type of R&D projects and also commercial integrations. So for us, seeing that awareness of the public and also the corporate part of things and also the government about the problem we are solving was a big aspect that left a big impression. And so that's why we decided to open an entity there. We did, of course, find a lot of really, some of the challenges of operating locally. So I think it's very important to have a representative in Korea to help with that. I was lucky to find a very great representative, and she's actually leading also our Korean operations very effectively. So yeah, so that was really helped a lot, I would say. But yeah, in my perspective, it was really a right decision to set up business locally. But I would say it's really varies based on the type of company and the type of product you have. Sometimes you can find also great partners that can help represent you locally or form some sort of a joint venture.
Thank you very much, Natalia. I think it's very helpful because to see from the perspective of a Canadian entrepreneur who's been on the ground, I think since she has some invaluable, messaging and experience that she can share with the delegates as well. I see a question here. I know that Delegate Sophie has to leave, and so she probably has to cut out right now, but I'm going to ask the question anyway for her so that it gets recorded and perhaps we can get the answers to it. The question from Sophie Aladis, Key to Access, is what is the prevalence of accessible design when it comes to infrastructure in South Korea? I wonder if Hans, you can answer that, or Songi too. I know Songi, NCSoft built from scratch their beautiful tower that they have in just south of Seoul in the Seoul's Silicon Valley. So could both of you kind of address that question? We'll start with Hans.
Well, can I didn't understand the question, so can you
Okay,
tell me again?
what is the prevalence of accessible design? Accessible, you know, in terms of, you know, disabled people, accessible design when it comes to infrastructure in South Korea? Is there, when they're doing the infrastructure building, are they taking into account making it accessible to those with disabilities?
Well, as long as I know, we do consider some when you design or build a commercial building or residential building. So yes, I think we have also the opportunity for those business, but in this part, actually, I don't have much idea for this. So I could only say, yeah, we have also accessible infrastructure in Korea, and now it's growing also. So I think, yeah, we have opportunity.
All right. Could I ask Song Yi to address that? I know you've got great experience in building that lovely building, so, and it's quite accessible. So I'm going to ask Song Yi to give her views on that.
No, I mean, yeah, I think I don't know the detail of the regulation of my head, but I think that all the regulations related with providing accessibility is, I think, at the level of the most developed countries in the world. So, for example, I'm not sure whether it applies to all the regions in of the country, but for us to get the use permit for the building, we had to make sure that all the levels and common areas of the building is accessible by wheelchairs. And in addition to that, companies of certain size are required to hire people with disabilities. If you don't have a certain number of employees as a percentage of your total employee, you have to pay annual fine. And also the websites that have certain number of visitors, you have to have that accessibility built in for those who have those who need like a visual aid and the hearing aids. So I think those regulations are very well in place.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. B, can you turn your video and microphone on and ask your question?
It says unable to start video.
Oh, it came on. I think it came on that way.
My video. Okay, there we go. Yes. Hi.
Go ahead and ask your question. And I think you can ask it to either of them or both of them.
Well, going into the Korean market, I'm just generally interested in what the approach is towards people with disabilities, how much they're integrated in life already, how many obstacles are there, and then the building code to which new buildings are built is just one element. But it's more like, what is the general atmosphere in society in relation to people with disabilities?
So maybe we'll start with Song Yi. Do you want to start that question?
Yeah, but I think that it's a very complicated question because it also touches up the cultural element of it. Even if the regulations are all in place and whoever is building new building is required to put all those accessibility codes in place, I think general as a society, you don't see a lot of people with disabilities on the street. And I think it is based on the long cultural history and the acceptance and kind of family view on one of the offsprings. I mean, it's deeply rooted in the culture. So it's not a simple question. It's to answer. And as a result, as you can imagine, while we have policy can do only certain things. And even if it says like, yes, in theory, it's all accessible and you have to have the signs that's for people who are blind and that, but unless it's used intensively with a certain number of people all the time, it doesn't get improved. So I guess it should come together in cultural acceptance as well as infrastructure. And I think we are ahead in terms of the policy and infrastructure rather than cultural acceptance.
And the cultural experience, do you mean that there's a huge stigma around people with disabilities?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hans, did you want to add anything to that?
I think she explained
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Okay. In the interest of time, then, I'm going to ask each of you, Songyi and Hans, to give one message, leave one message with our entrepreneurs, and whatever message it is you want. I'm going to start with you, Hans. What would you like to leave to encourage our women?
Okay.
Or word of advice?
Yes. Actually, our office have been working with this delegation for, I guess, 2 years, from 2 years ago. And we had many communication and cooperation between the Canadian entrepreneurs and Korean companies. So we also have a lot of, importance for this delegation to succeed. So because of COVID, it's really, we planned everything and it postponed, and now we meet virtually. So I think in next year and maybe 2022, we could really have a delegation in Korea. So our office is give a full support for that to match the Korean companies for the delegation. So please feel free to contact us for any help information. Yeah.
Thank you, Hans. Songyi, one last message before I make closing remarks.
No, I mean, I think again, congratulations to all the delegates who are selected for this mission. I'm always kind of working with Christine and Avalak on various initiatives. I'm always impressed by the Canadian, the culture and how well that they complement with the value of the Korean society. So I think there'll be a lot of, I think the Canadian business people are very much welcomed in Korean the society, and I think it's wonderful that you're knocking on the doors and trying to find opportunities to collaborate. And I'd love to see more success coming out of this mission. I know that there are already in a couple of cases that made the great match. So if there is anything I can do to support, I'd love to be of help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Songyi. So before closing, I'd like to once again thank our speakers and participants, and a special thanks to our partners and sponsors, and especially Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, FedDev for Southern Ontario, who have made the training series possible. To our delegates and guests, don't forget to join in on the next two sessions on October the 6th and the 13th. Every Tuesday for the next 2 weeks, we will have training sessions, and you can register the same way as you did through the cognitive forms as you did for today's session. So once again, thank you for joining us. I hope that this session was useful. I certainly learned a lot from Kotra and from Songyi's presentation, so hope you did as well. Once again, thank you for joining us, and see you next week.